Lance Stroll was quite humiliated in the last race in Brazil after he crashed out on the formation lap and wasn't able to bring the car to the normal road back to the track, beaching it in the sand. Obviously, calls for his replacement have now been stronger than ever. But with Honda and Newey coming on the door, and with the new regulations having massive potential to change everything in the landscape of the sport, could we actually see Stroll out of F1, and can his father actually commit to this move? It goes without saying that the situation in Aston Martin is very poor right now, because the team is like a boat with a lost compass. They don't understand what's wrong with the car, and they reverted to the Suzuka floor in Brazil, going to show that they have absolutely no clue where to add performance on the car. However, there is one bigger problem that they need to fix, and that's the presence of Lance Stroll. The Canadian driver is the son of the owner, Lawrence, and it's safe to say that he's in a comfort zone that he won't be getting out of soon, mostly because he knows that there is no team without him, as bizarre as it sounds. Although Aston Martin would be smart to look outside other options, such as Verstappen or Tsunoda, 3 doesn't fit into 2, and that means that either the aging Alonso or the troubling Stroll would have to leave the team in order for Honda and Newey to witness what they came for. And they came for nothing less than success. This is a team that's now willing to prove to the entire Formula One world that they're here to win and compete with the best. For that, they need drivers who are stable, make 0 to no mistakes, and drivers who can bring a lot of feedback to the engineers so that they'll be able to understand the issues of the car and work on it. With all due respect, Stroll is a driver that possesses all but these abilities, as crashing on the formation lap and beaching the car in the gravel trap when you clearly had an asphalt runoff to return back to the grid is definitely a huge question mark about your ability to drive the car. The fact that the Brazilian fans started to chant the name of Felipe Drugovich, who is part of Aston Martin as their reserve driver and has been present on his home race, while the incident with Stroll was happening on the spot, goes to show that the humiliation for the Canadian driver didn't stop. Quite the contrary, it was only emphasized to a greater extent. Lance himself has spoken about the incident, and when talking about why he spun the way he did, which was quite unusual, the young Canadian driver said, "As soon as I touched the brake, I just had a huge rear lock, and then I was a passenger from there. I never felt that in the car, so maybe there was a brake failure problem and we have to look into it. For sure, in a race like this, anything was possible, so to be out on lap 1 really sucks, but we have to look into what happened." With the tempo that Aston Martin are currently headed in, it's safe to assume that they'll be at the bottom of the table from 2025 onwards, as teams like Alpine, Williams, Haas and Racing Bulls have all scored more points since the mid-season development. The problem started with Imola in 2024, and while Alonso has been able to score points to a certain extent, he has regressed a lot in his performance, and that's definitely up to the car. As of now, Aston Martin sits 5th in the Constructors' Championship with 86 points. 62 of which are scored by Alonso. This means that around 72% of the total points for the team have been scored by the aging 2-time world champion, who should be thinking about retirement, not carrying the team on his back. This is why Stroll is not the serious option that the team should look into as the future of the team, because there's absolutely no way that the engineers led by Newey, Cardile and Cowell can be led by the feedback that will be given to them by the Canadian driver. But again, this is something that's been imposed on him by his father, who stated loud and clear that while he's the owner of the team, Lance is not going anywhere. Furthermore, the team principal, Mike Crack, said that the future in Aston Martin is definitely in Lance Stroll and that they see championship material in him. Pardon us for saying, might be the most delusional take in the world of Formula One. What's also worth noting is that Stroll is one of the leaders when it comes to damages caused by crashes in Formula One, which doesn't help Aston Martin at all, because instead of spending money on upgrades, they're spending it to fix the already existing car that they have massive issues with. Alonso has already stated that Aston Martin is currently the 9th or the 10th fastest team on the grid, and while both of them made it to Q3, the crashes of the AMR24 meant that they would start the race from P9 and P10, and they still failed to score points in Brazil, which points towards the lack of competitiveness from the Silverstone-based squad. And it's not like they don't have anyone to rely on. Remember, they signed Felipe Drugovich as a reserve driver, and the Brazilian has won the Formula 2 championship. So if we are to look at how Bortoleto has been signed by Kick Sauber and is yet to clinch the championship that Drugovich won back in 2022, it's easy to understand how much potential they're holding back with this driver. The new wave of young drivers is showing the teams that maybe the time for change is here, but Aston Martin might not be ready for these talks because of the nepotism that's present in the team. However, make no mistake that the newly involved sides will have their own say in who will get to drive for them from 2026 onwards. Honda's racing president, Koji Watanabe, said that the goal would be to reunite with Verstappen further down the line, as we do know how the soon-to-be four-time world champion feels about the Japanese manufacturer. Helmut Marko has gone on to reignite talks about a potential replacement coming on its way due to the fact that apart from Honda, the genius mind of Newey has joined the Silverstone-based squad, and this means that slowly but surely, Aston Martin is becoming a team that can win races and can be quite competitive under the new regulations. That, however, cannot be completed with a multiple-time world champion and a man who's a son of the owner of the team, because Aston Martin would be in an even worse position than what Red Bull is in right now. When talking about the potential scenario in which Verstappen could drive for Aston Martin further down the line, Marko added, "Max drives where he can win. Aston Martin has the most modern factory. The wind tunnel will be operational next year and Honda engines will be added to that. Everything fits. And if you look at history, it's clear. Wherever Newey has gone, there's been an upward trend. I don't know why it should be any different at Aston Martin. Verstappen knows he can win titles with us too if we can get through this World Championship now. Newey cannot start his work until the 1st of March in 2025, which is already relatively late. The whole team at Aston Martin certainly needs to get used to each other first." However, what's worth mentioning is that Newey's role in Aston Martin is going to differ a lot compared to what we believed he wanted in the first place. From a sit-back, relaxed role to a move that would allow him to be more hands-on in the team, Adrian has changed his opinion and now wants to be involved in the day-to-day activities in order to bring the team back to the winning tracks. Obviously, this is going to be a massive challenge, and in order to succeed, he'll need everyone's 120% capability and dedication, which unfortunately cannot be said for Lance, because there is a situation in which Lawrence and his son need to have a serious talk about what the priority of the team is. If they want to keep the relationship at their family clean, then there is no need to change anything. But to hope that a driver like Verstappen will drive in conditions like this is very difficult, because he understands that while he is the champion and he will be the preferred driver, the fact that his teammate will be the son of the owner of the team will always be a thorn in his eye. That won't be a problem for Tsunoda, who, if he doesn't get a chance with Red Bull, will definitely be considered for a seat in Aston Martin due to his relationship with the Japanese manufacturer, which is one of the primary reasons why the Austrian team is not really keen on promoting him next to Verstappen, as they know that there's always a risk that Honda would want him in their camp due to the fact that they're the ones who brought him to the F1 ranks. All of this points towards a very interesting development of events waiting for us, but what's worth adding is that the situation will be closely monitored from the financial partners of Aston Martin, because selling small shares of the team, while benefiting Lawrence in a greater financial extent, is taking a little bit of his power on the team, and Newey and Honda will definitely have a say as to what the best duo would be to start the season with. When you consider all these factors as one, do you think that Lance Stroll is worth replacing with a driver like Tsunoda, Drugovich, or even Verstappen? And more importantly, do you think that Lawrence should finally give up on the dream of his son becoming a world champion if he has the right equipment to build a championship winning car? Let us know in the comments down below.